Development Trust. And the first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of our previous meeting. Are there any questions or comments regarding the minutes? They have been provided to the trustees previous to this meeting. Chair would entertain a motion then to approve the minutes. A motion made second to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Cast your votes, please. And the minutes are approved. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is to ratify the claims that have hit the sheet since our last meeting, and they are somewhat shorter than we've had before. They're certainly no less expensive than we've had before. Anyway, are there any comments or questions on the? Yes, Larry.
Yeah, I've been having some conversation, Mr. Chairman, with Brent concerning what is a marketing reimbursable expense for the Outlet Mall, and I did not have a chance to talk with him. I wondered, this $133,000, what is that for specifically?
We can get that information for you. Brent wasn't able to be here this afternoon,
I know.
But we'll get you that information. It does not reflect any of the changes that Brent has talked to you about. We haven't made those changes yet, so it would be the kinds of things that were allowed under the old agreement, or the existing agreement.
Okay, well, there were, Mr. Chairman, in my opinion, some things that he was talking to them, they were asking for that, in my mind, were questionable as far as being reimbursable, and they're not in here, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying, yes. The regional marketing expenses under the definition in the current contract.
Because I know I had the same experience talking to Brent about some of the things they asked for, and I thought they were out of line. Any more questions on the claims?
I'd like to move approval.
Motion made and seconded to approve our claims, to ratify the claims. Is there any further discussion? Cast your votes, please. And the claims are ratified. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is item 4A, resolution approving the allocation of GO bond funds and proceeds or investment proceeds in the amount of $1,450,000 for the Tapstone Energy LLC Economic Development Agreement. Kathy, would you like to say something about this one?
This is the resolution approving the allocation of funding to Tapstone. They plan to create 150 new jobs in Oklahoma City over the next 5 years with a first-year average wage of over $146,000. The company plans to locate in the Meideke building in Bricktown and do a complete renovation of that building, and I think this is a really good project for the city.
It's a Tom Ward project, I think.
Right. This is Tom Ward's new energy company.
So it's got a lot of experience at the top. Any questions or comments? Chair, entertain a motion to approve.
Move approval.
A motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Cast your votes, please. And the issue is approved. Thank you very much. Item 4B is a joint economic development agreement with the City of Oklahoma City and Tapstone Energy LLC for establishing their headquarters in Oklahoma City and operating primary jobs and creating primary jobs in Oklahoma City. This is a companion to the one we just approved. Are there any questions or comments on this point? Chair, would entertain a motion to approve. That motion made.
Second.
Made and second to approve. Any further discussion? Cast your votes. And item 4B is approved. Thank you very much. Item 4C is a joint resolution approving the allocation of general obligation bonds, funds in the amount of $750,000 for the memorandum of agreement with the Oklahoma City Redevelopment Authority and the City of Oklahoma City to provide necessary public improvements in support of the continued development of the General Electric Company's Oil and Gas Research Center. Kathy, would you like to say a word about this one?
Sure. This item is to provide funding to the Oklahoma City Redevelopment Authority, which is a city trust that is associated with the Oklahoma City Urban Renewal Authority. The Redevelopment Authority is funding the improvements associated with the GE Energy Research Project. We have also applied for an Economic Development Administration grant, and we hope that the receipt of that grant will make it necessary to access this $750,000. So the $750,000 is just in case the grant is not sufficient to cover all of the public improvement expenses, or there's other difficulties with the grant. We don't have all the documents yet in hand, but we have been awarded a $1 million grant from the EDA.
Are there any questions or comments? Yeah, Larry.
Kathy, this is a little bit different than some of the other economic development ones that are predicated on salaries where the company has to perform. On this one here, these funds would be paid if the grant didn't come through with no performance criteria necessarily being tied to it, or did I misread something?
Well, that's correct. Since the funding is to the redevelopment authority and not to a company, there isn't that performance criteria. It is for public improvement, so they would all be in the public right-of-way. But we do have job creation requirements in the GE agreement.
I'm aware of that.
And so those are tied to this allocation as well. If that makes sense.
You lost me on that part.
Okay, Wiley.
We've already had a prior agreement brought before the trust for an economic development agreement with GE itself.
For creation of so many jobs at such a salary.
Right.
Yeah.
And that particular agreement is already in place, and that
Right.
has an incentive amount. This is a separate agreement between this trust and the Urban Renewal Authority for public improvements. The money will only be spent on public improvements. It will not go to the company. So the city will own those improvements after they're...
Okay.
To that end, I'd just like to compliment the effort for receiving the grant. Let's hope that happens, but even if it doesn't, I'm particularly grateful for a company like this choosing a location like that, and the fact that the right-of-way and the area surrounding it will hopefully cause greater expansion or reuse of that particular facility that's sat pretty empty and pretty sad for a long time. So I'd move approval of the item.
Second.
I have a motion made and second to approve item 4C. Is there any further discussion or questions? If not, please cast your votes. And the item is approved. Thank you very much. Item 4D is redevelopment authority. Is this a companion item?
I would move the item.
Okay, have a motion made and
Second.
to approve item 4D as a companion to the one we just discussed. Please cast your votes. And the item is approved. Thank you. Item 4E is a preliminary engineering report on the City Hall lawn restoration, renovation.
This is a Project 180 funded project, and Eric Winger, the city's public works director, is here to give a brief presentation about the improvements that are planned to the City Hall lawn.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to present this afternoon. The project that you have before you is one that you've actually seen parts of before, and this was recently, or a part of the Bicentennial Park project. It was removed, and now we're ready to actually bring it back to you for a re-advertisement and a rebid. With that, this project is a $1.9 million estimated improvement to City Hall lawn, and I think what I'll show you through the presentation are some of the improvements that are going to be made. There's a lot of features that are actually going to be retained on the current City Hall lawn site as well. So with that, PDG is our architect. They were the same architect that actually performed the plans on Bicentennial, so we've got a consistency that is there. And what you'll also find is that we're hoping to begin this project later this fall and actually complete it in the spring of 2015. So with that, let me get this out. When we look at the project limits, on the left-hand side, you can see the Bicentennial Park. You'll see the project limits of City Hall on the right. So this will include both the west and east lawns of City Hall. It will also include the two triangular areas that were created with Colcord and Couch when Patience Landing Drive was created. You'll see those identified at the top and the bottom, just on the west side of Hudson. You recall on the Bicentennial Park there were certain design features that were part of the elements of that, obviously maintaining the grand lawn, the sweeping seats, the ability to enhance the landscaping, the fountain. You'll see a lot of those features being repeated on the City Hall lawn side. So a lot of the black granite, the ADA accessibility through the sidewalks, maintaining the historic fountain, which you'll see on the east side of the site. Those are all features you're going to be retained. And So what we see this project as is an enhancement to City Hall, one that a lot of the existing landscapings I'll show on a later slide is also going to be retained. So this isn't the same type of project where all the trees are going to be removed and we're starting over. Many of the existing historic trees are going to be retained. This is an aerial view. It gives you a little bit of perspective. This is, of course, looking towards the southwest, but you'll just see that integration of the two park areas. This was historically part of the bigger campus plan. City Hall, the Civic Center, and, of course, the county courthouse were all constructed at the same time. Looking on the east side of the site, you'll see the replacement of the flagpoles that were removed as a part of the early Project 180 work, so the flagpoles will be restored, on the west side. We've got the banding that you'll see at the crosswalk on, or at least the mid-block crossing on Walker that is there, and some of the other enhancements. Looking on the east side of the site, you'll see the historic fountain being retained. Now, the fountain is in very poor condition. It currently does not have water in it this year. It has had a number of leaks. There's some mechanical issues. There's a lot of historic features of the fountain, though, that are going to be retained. So all of the top cast stone, all of the white stone that is going around the perimeter of that is going to be retained and reused in the new project. There's also some existing black granite that's located near the doors of City Hall. All that's going to be retained as well. So as much of the historical elements of that fountain that could be retained are. Some of the other things that I'll mention about retainment on the site are a lot of the art pieces. So the Earth Meets Sky sculpture, the Centennial Clock, and also, of course, the Stanley Draper statue that was recently placed on this side of the project are all going to be maintained as a part of the overall project. This is where the Centennial Clock will be proposed. So this will be across the street from the Art Museum. So it's going to come off the top of the center of the arch and be located just a little further north. But you'll see that we're going to place that in one of the gardens here. And then looking at the site, one of the concerns I know that we went through, not just with art, but with the trees on the bicentennial, even though they're continuing to mature, is a lot of the mature trees at City Hall are going to be salvaged. And so looking top down, west is on the left, east on the course on the right. All the trees that are identified in green are going to be retained. All of the shrubbery and all of the landscaping around the building is also going to be retained. The trees that are gray are going to be removed. The ones that you see that are around the fountain, those are crepe myrtles. We're actually going to replace crepe myrtles with the new fountain. It's just the old ones need to be harvested, and we just need to make the improvements. There's a lot of irrigation lines and things that run underneath those. The other gray trees that you predominantly see, they're going to be removed. A lot of those are the red cedars. They're not a preferable tree, and so we're going to actually remove those and replace them with new. But again, we wanted to show this plan as a lot of the existing elements are going to be retained. But with that, I again mentioned it's a $1.9 million project. It's one that this is the preliminary report that you're considering today. The final plans can be completed very quickly. We hope to be able to come back to you with those plans and advertise the project in the fall, start construction hopefully as early as August, September timeframe, and complete it by spring of 15. And with that, I can answer any questions that you might have.
Other questions for Eric? Eric, are you coordinating with the Art Museum? This little,
there are features of the site. If I were to go back and we were to look at, say, the triangular area that's adjacent to the Art Museum on the northeast side, it has been named the Carolyn Hill Park, and there is some conversations that were started with the Art Museum about some additional enhancements that might occur in that location. With that said, we've not received anything to date, but we're expecting that to take place at some point in the future. So we're prepared to do so. The improvements that are slated as a part of this would be sidewalks and ADA enhancements and some landscaping. It would provide for future enhancements when those...
Is the same issue, the same situation exist for the High Tower Park?
We did have that at City Council, as you know, as a renaming of that area, but I have not received any additional improvements to date. So I guess that would be possible if those were to come forward, we could consider those.
I'm sorry.
Eric, do you anticipate any road closures with these enhancements?
One of the things that we wanted to make sure, we probably could have bid this project earlier, but with the parking garage work that's adjacent, we did not want to have two competing contractors. I think it may be necessary to close a lane periods of time for deliveries and for some of the work that may need to take place, but at this point, I'm not anticipating a road closure. but maybe some temporary restrictions on the current lane, or maybe some of the existing parking may have to come offline for a period of time while they do landscape improvements in the area.
Are there any comments or questions? Chair will entertain a motion.
Would like to move receipt of the report.
Motion made and second to receive the report. Any comments or further questions? Cast your votes, please. And the item is approved. Thank you very much. Item F is item 4F is a change order number 8 with the project that was involved with the downtown Project 180. Eric, you'd like to say anything about this?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. This item is actually Amendment 8, Change Order 8, and the final acceptance of Package 5 for Project 180. You'll see that the net decrease is $627,000, and this accounts for unit prices. There were some liquidated damages that were assessed on this project, and then there were certain elements that, again, because of the parking garage work, we removed a portion of the work there as well. But the project is complete, and this was predominantly the area around City Hall, and we're recommending approval.
Eric, there's been some comments about an additional traffic control at Walker and where the street that comes up to Walker.
Yes, so there's some opportunity at Colcord and Couch, and we're anticipating including those as part of the City Hall lawn project and evaluating them and incorporating them as a part of that work, since we'll be removing portions of the lawn and some of the landscaping with City Hall.
Any other comments or questions on this particular item, item 4F? A motion made. A second. Is there further discussion? Please cast your votes. And the item is approved. Thank you. Item 4G is a final plans and specifications be advertised for bids with the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust project PC something or other Cottage District for alleyways. Is there any comments or questions? Kathy, you want to say something about this one?
This project is going to be funded with funding from TIF District Number 2, the downtown TIF District, plus funding from the Water Utility Trust. We had an allocation approved, it's probably been 2 years to 18 months ago, to work with some of the property owners in the Cottage District to redo the alleys in that area. And there's criteria that have to be met, and so this final plans and specifications will allow us to implement that alleyway program.
Any comments or questions? Eric's here also, probably can offer some comments, answer some questions. Move the item. Item's been moved. Item been moved in second. Eric, you offer the item on that one. All those in favor, please cast your votes. And the item is approved. Thank you. Item 4I is change order number 1. H, I'm sorry. H, I think we did H. No, we didn't. Item 4H is ratifying improvement addenda numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6 with the Oklahoma City and the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust for projects such and such and such and such. There again, this is a Project 180 thing. Are there any comments or questions of Eric?
In light of the rejection of the bids, what's the go forward on that?
So the item is the rejection of the Package 7 bids that were received, and this actually also includes the re-advertisement of Package 7A. So what we're looking at here is we've taken Package 7, which was a project that went out to bid that we felt very comfortable with, but after receiving the bids, we learned a lot. One of those was that the project over $10 million was quite large for a lot of our competing contractors, so we only received 2 bids on the project. That was one error. The other one would have been that obviously as we continue to implement the block-by-block approach, it obviously is a little more complicated. It causes a lot of rephasing, and that also caused the prices to increase slightly as well. With those 2 items, we're coming back to you with 2 packages, a 7A and a 7B, similar to like what we did on Package 6. It will reduce the prices of the individual contracts to below $10 million each, which should encourage additional bidders. So that's probably the biggest factor that we're looking at. On Package 7A, it's going to focus on Kerr and then some area around Harvey. And on 7B, which isn't being approved today, we'll bring that back to you at a later date this fall. It's going to focus on Park and areas around Broadway. So again, decreasing the size of the contract and focusing on a smaller scope of work, and then continuing to implement the phased approach. With your approval today, we'll send this back out to bid, receive new bids, and then come back to you hopefully with an award.
Motion made.
Second.
Second. Is there further discussion? I have a question. We, I think, funded a project to look at Park Avenue as far as improving it for retail.
Yep.
Will this be coordinated so we won't do anything here that we'll hear out later?
Yes.
Okay. Please cast your votes. And the item is approved. Thank you very much. Item I is a change order in the McGee Center lobby renovations project. Increase of $26,000 paid for out of the TIF funds. Kathy?
Eric may know more about this one. This is the lobby renovation at the Myriad Gardens and the McGee Center. It adds certain items that I think were recognized during the renovations as being necessary.
So the work on the project is nearly complete. We expect that it'll be finished up in the next month. This is change order 1 for $26,000. There's some additional building automation system enhancements that are necessary, and then there's some additional tile and some screening. So with this, again, the project's going to be completed probably in the next 30 to 40 days, and we're recommending approval.
Are there any comments or questions? Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a motion made and second to approve. Further discussion? Cast your votes, please. The item is approved. Thank you. Next, we have the general manager report, I think, is in here. Pardon me? Item J. J? I'm sorry. You get J. I got J here. Okay, now we have Project J, 4J, resolution directing the general manager to provide appropriate notice to the Myriad Gardens Foundation that the trust intends to transfer ownership of the property known as the Vitagraph property to Oklahoma City Urban Renewal Authority, and directing the general manager to initiate processes necessary to sell and transfer the Vitagraph property to Urban Renewal Authority. Any questions? Kathy, you want to say something about this project?
Yes, just a little bit of background on this item. As you know, a company has purchased the Stage Center property. Their name is Kestrel Investments, and they are working with OG&E for OG&E to build their new headquarters. Kestrel has hired a national developer, a company named Clayco, to help with that project to construct the new headquarters. Clayco has contacted the city and me about their interest in considering development of the block south of Stage Center. So it's the block that would be bounded by the old California Street right-of-way, Reno, Hudson, and Walker. The city owns the north half of that block. It's currently leased to the Arts Council, is used as a part of the Arts Festival. The south half of the block, the majority of that is owned by the Economic Development Trust and is known as the Vitagraph property. We purchased it a few years ago and leased it to the Myriad Gardens Foundation. Because we have been contacted by this developer with their interest in wanting to look at the South Block and whether or not it could be considered as a part of the OG&E headquarters project, we felt it was best to begin a process to take proposals, a public process to take proposals on the redevelopment of that block. We know that Clayco is interested, but we also have been contacted by other developers, and we believe that having a competitive process is the best approach. The Urban Renewal Authority is the entity that the city typically uses for these kinds of private development projects. So the plan at this point in time is for the property to be transferred to the Urban Renewal Authority, both the city property and the Economic Development Trust property, and that the Urban Renewal Authority will issue a request for proposals relatively soon so that we can begin the process to look at whether or not it makes sense to include that South Block in this redevelopment project. We believe that it does give us there is the possibility that it would result in a larger more economically impactful kinds of project for downtown Oklahoma City, maybe the opportunity for a larger mixed-use kind of development if both the blocks were available for development. So it will take some time to get through all of the different steps, and because of the amount of time involved and because of the leases, Mary Gardens Foundation has leased this property to other tenants. We felt it was necessary to go ahead and give the Mary Gardens Foundation notice so that they can begin to work with those tenants. One of the things that we intend to do in the RFP is ask that any proposals that we receive include a plan for how to address these tenants and their space and how to relocate them and possible future plans. So we're trying to be very sensitive to the tenants that are there right now and accommodate them while recognizing that this is a very important development opportunity for Oklahoma City.
Isn't there some privately owned property on that block still?
There is a parcel on the corner at Reno and Walker that is privately owned.
How about the McAlpine Center and the Arts Council? Are they going to get notification that they have to find another place to?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
Are they rent paying?
They do not pay any rent for the building, but they have to provide all the improvements and maintenance for the building.
Are there any additional questions? Yes.
What are the implications for the Arts Festival and the infrastructure that is underground, providing for one of the top 5 festivals in the country?
Well, that's one of the things that we're going to have to talk about, and we're beginning those discussions. We began them today about beginning to meet and talk about future locations of the Arts Festival and what that means for the festival, working with all of the stakeholders downtown that are impacted by relocating the festival. We're trying to be very, very sensitive to that, and there will be the need to invest in some infrastructure to support the Arts Festival, and that will be one of the items for discussion as we go forward.
It's not an easy situation.
It's not an easy situation. It's complicated.
But it's a voluntary situation.
Right.
Effort is to
Yeah.
explore options.
Right, yes, actually, yeah, absolutely.
And rough timetable?
We hope to issue the request for proposals in August and receive the proposals in October, and then it will take, a few months to evaluate them, and, it depends on how many proposals we get, but it could take several weeks to evaluate the proposals and then designate a conditional redeveloper. And at that time, we really begin the discussions about how it all plays out and timing and some of those other things. And one of the things that we also would get as a part of those responses to the RFP is a schedule and some idea about timing. Some of these projects take a very, very long time to execute, so we have some time to think about the Arts Festival and figure out some of those kinds of issues.
Any additional questions or comments? Chair will entertain motion to approve. Motion made and seconded to approve this. Item 4J. All those in favor, please cast your votes. And the item is approved. Thank you. Now we can talk about the General Manager's report. Since our normal spokesman's not here, Kathy, are you going to take it?
I'm going to try, yeah. Just a couple of things to point out. Continental Resources ended its 3rd year recently with 334 employees with an average salary of over $200,000. So they are continuing to make very good progress towards their goal. On a not-so-cheery note, the Outlet Mall continues to perform slightly below target through May of this year. We were impacted pretty seriously by the bad weather in December and January towards reaching the targets that we had set out. Remember, overall, they're doing well and have gone above and beyond what we expected. But these past few months have been a little difficult because of the bad weather in December and January.
Kathy, is there going to be any problem with Energex since they've changed their name to Enable and become a different kind of company?
We are still in discussions with Energex, I believe, and still looking at that. But I don't think there'll be any problems since they've changed their name. Oh, well, wait a minute. The Energex, one of the Energex projects is when they were still Energex. It was the parking agreement that we've already completed, yeah.
That's over.
Yeah, it's all finished, yeah.
Any other comments or questions on the general manager report? If not, are there any comments from the trustees? Comments from the staff? Comments from the public? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.